So if you're clicking on this video, it's likely that you want to learn how to do some vinyl wrapping, and that's what I'm here to teach you today. Obviously, there is nothing that can be taught that experience is not going to give you a better understanding. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. I'm going to give you some basic understanding of vinyl wrap, but the only way to really learn is going to be through experience. So we're going to go ahead, dive into a couple things. Hopefully you learn something, and then, with practice, you might be able to do some vinyl wrapping on your own and maybe on your own car. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we get into vinyl wrapping, I do just want to, ask you guys to subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I really want to, share some knowledge that I've been learning with you guys. Give you kind of the basics, and hopefully we can kind of go from there, and we can do bigger and better things on the channel. But as of right now, I've been doing a lot of vinyl wrapping, and if you guys have been interested in that or curious to see if you could do it yourself, then definitely go down there and hit subscribe. You're not going to want to miss this. This is advice from a beginner for beginners, so definitely hit that subscribe button. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do vinyl wrapping 101. I think that's what I'm going to call the video, vinyl wrapping 101. So I have been learning how to vinyl wrap from professionals. I work at a shop now, and I do just want to share some of my knowledge and just give you guys some things that I've been learning. Now, there is a caveat to that. So basically, if you're not a professional vinyl wrap installer, you're not going to have your vinyl wrap come out perfect. All right. So the only way that you can actually vinyl wrap a vehicle and have it be perfect is basically to be a professional. So if any of you have tried to vinyl wrap before, maybe you know this, maybe you realize that it's a lot harder than it looks. This is why vinyl wrap is actually really expensive to get installed, is because the material may be part of the cost, but a lot of the cost is actually, it's going to come down to the prep. It's going to come down to the skill. Okay, so a professional shop is going to have a lot more skill. They're going to be able to get it done perfectly. Whereas, if you do it on your own, it may look good from far away, but far from good when you get up close. That's really how you can tell, somebody is a professional. So a vinyl wrap shop, for example, if you have a really nice car, exotic cars, that kind of stuff, not only are they're harder to install because those cars tend to have a lot more complicated body lines. They're really expensive cars. They're more show car quality. So you're going to want it to be perfect, especially from up close. If you have a really, really nice car and it's a show car and that kind of stuff, you're not going to want to do it yourself. You're never going to get good enough if you're not a professional to install it perfectly. It is just what it is. So, I guess if you're doing it for a hobby and you have tons of vinyl wrap and, you've had tons and tons of practice, you might get it to be perfect. But the thing is, it's really, really difficult to get it perfect. So this is actually coming from somebody who's been working at a shop. If you have a really nice car and, you want it to look perfect, you may just need to pay a professional to get it done, because you're going to go through a lot of material, a lot of hard learning experiences to realize that you probably can't do it yourself. The thing about watching YouTube and watching professionals do it is they make it look easy. That's kind of the thing that I don't like about YouTube is, I love YouTube, don't get me wrong. I watch a lot of videos. I try to learn as much as I can, but it's always coming from a professional's point of view, where they just make it look too easy, and it gives you a false impression that you could do it yourself if you just learn enough. Really, there is no substitution for experience. So that's the one thing that you need to realize. So if you have a show car and you actually have to have, perfect quality, I don't really recommend this for you. This is for the person who doesn't have a show car, who has a nice car. Maybe they want to change the color because they don't want to go through the paint. This is really for the do-it-yourself at-home person who doesn't have the funds, doesn't have the resources to get the wrap done professionally, but they want to make their car look a little bit better. So or that's kind of what this video is for that person. Like myself, you know, I don't have a show car, and you know, I want it to look cool. I'm gonna wrap it eventually. There's still a lot more I need to learn, and you know, more experience that I need, but you know, I do want this to come out perfect, and you know, with my experience and you know, my learning, I think I can get it to that point, and I'll kind of show you guys what I'm saying. So enough of that, let's go ahead and grab some vinyl and kind of just look at it and go, you know, like I said, vinyl wrap 101. I also have a GoPro, so I will show you guys some first person views, hopefully the lighting, and hopefully it comes out good. You guys can kind of see some of the details that I'm talking about. So let's grab a piece of vinyl. So we have a piece of vinyl, and just cut it to like a, you know, square, rectangle, or whatever, so you know, we can kind of play around with it. I'll show you guys kind of what we're dealing with and some of the tips and tricks and stuff like that. Some stuff that you need to know, you know, for your entry level vinyl wrap knowledge. So right here we have 3M 1080. Now there are a lot of different brands. 3M is a very well-known brand. However, in the wrap industry or in the professional industry, I've kind of found out that 3M is not really the go-to for the professionals. You know, people want 3M installed because they know that 3M tends to have good products, but you know, a lot of times, you know, 3M definitely has its flaws, and professionals don't tend to like it as much. You know, if you've watched like CK wraps and stuff like that, you might know. Vivid is going to be your cheaper vinyl, and you know, Avery Dennis is going to be kind of like, you know, the higher end. You know, a lot of professionals actually prefer Avery. So there is a lot of different things to know about the vinyl itself. So whatever vinyl you choose, a lot of this stuff is going to be applicable. However, some of the vinyl that you may get may not have the same quality, and really you can tell the quality when you're actually trying to install it. So for example, vinyl, people don't realize that vinyl is actually really pliable, and actually very forgiving, and actually can be healed. Most of the time, if you have something in the vinyl, you may not realize that it can actually be healed, like creases, you know, bubbling, discoloration, all that kind of stuff. Most of the time can be healed, and that's because the vinyl has a memory technology to it, where it actually has like a plastic or a PVC in the vinyl itself, where it actually has the memory to kind of shrink back. So a lot of people don't realize that. As they start to install stuff, they get imperfections. They don't want to kind of pull it up, you know, heat it with the heat gun to really heal it, and then try again. You know, you might see, you know, in certain spots there might be creases and things like that, and people just kind of say, well, it's there and I've gone too far, I can't really fix it. But if you have the patience and you kind of know how to heal it and how to fix your mistakes, then, you know, if you have that patience, you can kind of figure that out and get through that. So there is also air regress technology. I know a lot of people, you know, are kind of aware of that, but I think they don't understand what the air regress actually can do and can't do. So it's not gonna just push out any air bubble. It's, you know, it's not gonna do any of that. If you have like small bubbles, people don't realize that if you kind of touch it and you kind of roll it around with your finger, it actually will go away, and that's part of the air technology. But a lot of times if you have like a big bubble, somebody will get a squeegee and assume that it's gonna push the air out, and it won't. It actually will crease, okay? So there's a lot there. I can't get everything in one video, so we're just gonna kind of go over some of the basics here. Let's take a look. Like I said, we just have a square piece, rectangle piece, whatever. So first thing is prep. Okay, prep is super, super important. It's just like paint, just like anything else. If you're gonna be installing something that essentially is gonna be on there for, you know, quite a bit of time, vinyl is not permanent. I promise you that. It's not permanent. It will need to be pulled off at some point. So, you know, if you want something permanent, you're gonna have to paint it. But just like paint, it is gonna have to be prepped. So, easy way to prep, soapy water, mainly water with just a few drops of like dish soap, that's fine. You don't want anything cleaners that have any type of wax or polish or anything like that. You don't want to clean it with that because you want to get all the residue off. So some warm water, a sprayer, a few drops of soap is going to be fine. I'm not going to prep this super well because we're just going to do a small piece, but if you are going to do an entire panel or you're going to do a whole car, you have to get in all of these cracks, all of these crevices. Everything has to be super clean, okay? Because the adhesive on the vinyl needs that really clean surface to stick. So, we're just going to do on the side right here, spray it good. It doesn't really matter. We're going to be wiping it up. So I should be using a microfiber towel. My microfibers are dirty at the moment, and like I said, this isn't something that's going to be on there permanent, so I'm not as worried about it. But this kind of stuff, just like a regular like kitchen towel or bathroom hand towel, it can leave, if you pull stuff off, it's leaving hairs and all that stuff, and that stuff will be seen through the vinyl. I promise you. A tiny hair I promise you, it will be seen through the vinyl. So you go ahead, rub it down really good, if you need to, a couple of different directions, doing it a few times. Like I said, microfiber towel is going to be your best case scenario. And then you'll want to do isopropyl alcohol. The higher the alcohol content, the better. At the shop we use like 99%, 70%, 90% is going to be just fine. You'll want to put it in a bottle, a spray bottle. I don't have that, so just going to put a little bit on the towel and we're going to wipe it down. Now, another step that is really important that a lot of people miss would be clay bar. So a lot of times you wash something, you think it's clean, and then you'll actually go and you'll feel that it's still gritty, because that kind of stuff is really embedded in the clear coat. So getting a little bit of clay bar on it, you don't have to go super hard on it, but getting it smooth, and then using the isopropyl alcohol to really get that clean. You want it to be really clean, and we kind of do we kind of do a little bit of finger test on it, where if it's squeaking, then that's kind of your indication that there's really no oils on it. Your finger's really gripping on it. It's going to help the adhesive. So another thing a lot of people don't realize is tack clothing the back. You don't want your backing paper to have any debris on it, because even the smallest little particles, I promise you, will allow the adhesive to not stick. It will bubble up. You'll see little dots and all that stuff in there, and that's because it wasn't prepped. So if you're seeing that kind of stuff, then you know that you haven't prepped the vehicle properly, or maybe it came from the backing paper, maybe it came from the air. So another thing is you want to have the room at least, I would probably say around 70, 80 degrees. Hotter than that, you're going to start to get, the material is going to be more flexible and kind of already stretching because it's hot, and that's kind of how the material works. You don't necessarily want that, okay? So let's take a look. We'll switch over to the GoPro. So here we are. We have our vinyl. We have our panel, right? So because this is a square piece, this is actually fairly simple for me to explain, okay? So I'm just gonna peel the backing paper off. We're gonna put it on, okay? So it's just lightly tacked, okay? Now, one thing that people don't really understand is, okay, now we have a square piece and we have body lines, okay? So the way that the body lines actually affect the material is there's really two ways to think about the vinyl. There is excess and recess, okay? So as you can see right here, the body panel comes down and in, where this is tenting over it, okay? So if you look over here, you can see that it's tenting. So this is what I would call recess, right? So if the recess is not deep enough, the vinyl should have the capability of stretching in here, and it doesn't really need heat. A lot of people think that you need heat, but what happens, right? So I'm gonna squeegee in, okay? So we squeegee in the recess. Now you can see this line is no longer straight. It curves in a little bit, and it's only doing it a little bit because this is a very small recess. But if it was a bigger recessed area, like something like right here, you know, then the vinyl is no longer going to be straight. It's going to have to curve into that recess, and it's going to cause the material to, you know, no longer have this straight curve. It's going to start to curve in, right? Obviously, you're dealing with a flat panel, and the goal is to morph it to the shape of the panel or the door, whatever you're doing, right? So the more that has body lines, the more you're going to start dealing with excess and recess, okay? So we'll look at it from a different point of view. Pull it off. And we'll look at it from an excess point of view, right? Like if you're going around, let's say you're going around the door, and you're going around the door handle, okay? When I try to curve it this way, you can see how it's bubbling up here, it's bubbling up here, all over here is because what we're trying to get it to stick to has a lot of curves. So it's causing there to be excess, right? Anytime you see that there is material that is kind of bunching up, or it is, you know, like if you see, I'll try to bend this down, but there's too much excess over here, because this is, not only is it curving here, but it's curving over, okay? So you get a lot of excess. Now this is where, you know, heating and stretching and things like that may come into play. However, a lot of people think that you need to heat, when a lot of times the vinyl actually does not need heat to get around those corners, right? So I can just pull it. See, I didn't have to use any heat, but I can pull it and it's going, see, I can give it, and you can give it good tugs. I mean, it's strong stuff, okay? So as you can see, now it's causing excess over here, because that's the goal, right? Anytime you have excess, you're not gonna get rid of that excess. It's just, where do I wanna put it? And where you wanna put it is obviously off of what you're doing, right? So I wanna push all the excess off of this door handle, and then I can cut it off, right? So you wanna get it flat, right? You wanna get it flat to just the excess, or the end, right? And then you can see there's a bunch of excess over here, and then when you're ready and you have no excess, everything is kind of stretched and stuff like that. You know, now I have it perfect over here. And then once I was all done, I can go cut this. You can see there's a lot of excess building up over here, but it's away from where I need it, right? So now, as you can see, now we have the vinyl. It doesn't have really any damage, but there are wrinkles and stuff like that. So how would you get that out, right? Let's say it didn't work out, you had to take it off. Now this one's not too bad, so you wouldn't even need to heat this, right? I could just pull it tight, okay? And then I could start pushing out some of that. But as you can see here, I hope you guys can see that, there is some damage there, right? So a lot of people will see stuff like this and they'll get like discouraged. But a lot of times you would actually be surprised at like how much you can actually get off with just pushing your finger. See, so there's a little bit of excess right there, and I can just push it with my finger. With your squeegee, a lot of times you're pushing with your squeegee and you can't really tell what you're running over. Like, right, I have some excess right here, right? So if I start doing this, you can see the excess is trying to go somewhere, okay? It's getting closer together. It's, you know, this is when you start getting into the danger zone, right? When it starts to get real close together, you know that a wrinkle is possible. But if you push hard, you work it out just right, you can actually get it all the way out. So that's one thing. Another thing is, like, let's say here, let's do some damage to it. Push it down, okay? So you don't want the vinyl to stick to itself, but if you do, right, and then it looks bad. It looks like tin foil, you know, it looks really bad. A lot of people would be like, oh man, this panel is messed up. You try to go over it, see what it's doing when it has all those wrinkles in it. See how it gets all messed up? If you're installing vinyl and this happens to you, you don't have to worry, okay? So you can see, no matter what I do, I hope you guys can see this on camera, but no matter what I do, all of these creases, all of these wrinkles are in here, okay? A lot of people think, oh, well, it must be done with, okay? And if you're dealing with an entire piece, that's a lot of material. So what we can do, grab our heat gun. Okay, so we have a piece that's damaged. Take our heat gun, keep it warm, and we want to heat the whole area, okay? Don't get too close. And heat the whole area out. Turn the heat gun off, let that cool down, okay? If you pull on it too hard, it's gonna discolor. You don't really, like I said, heat is very overused by beginners. They think that you need to use a lot of heat. You can actually do a lot of damage that way. So I'm gonna heat it again, just to, you know, now that it's pushed off, we got most of that stuff out, okay? So I'm gonna let that cool down. Pull it off of what I need to do. It's still a little warm. You can kind of feel that it's a little bit more pliable when it's warm. Once it's kind of cooled down, I can kind of just pull it tight, right? Grab my squeegee. Oops. Yeah. So grab my squeegee. Work in this recess first. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to happen so I could show you guys. So as you can see, no damage, right? We got it all out. All of that's perfect. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this. So there's a little bubble right here, right? Now, a lot of times if you go over the squeegee, or you go over the bubble with the squeegee, it can cause it to wrinkle. That time it was pretty small. It didn't cause any issues. Let's get a bigger one. So the only way we can get bubbles is if we have excess, right? So we have excess here. We can work out what we can. So what I'm doing is I'm working towards the center. So you got a crease there. You know, work towards the center, get an air bubble. So we're not so worried about everything over here. I just wanted to show you guys this air bubble, okay? Now, this air bubble may be too big. If it's too big, it's in the middle of the panel, all the edges are already set, then you would need to pop it. So you get your knife and you pop it. However, a lot of times you want to do it with your finger, because if you do it with the squeegee, it's probably going to wrinkle it, right? So, but a lot of times you actually can get air bubbles out by just slowly working it inwards with your finger. Now this one ain't gonna do that, it's too big, but if you go over it, see, it's gonna do all this stuff. Which all of this can be healed. I know it looks really bad. Hopefully you guys can see that on camera, but it looks really bad. It can be healed, right? So pull it up. You know, all this stuff looks really bad. You wouldn't think that you could save this piece. Let that cool down, and like magic, it's healed, right? The only thing that you can't really heal is holes, right? If it pops or it gives you like a hole or something, probably won't be able to fix it. But this is called glassing, okay? So I'm gonna pull on it really tight. It's gonna get all that stuff out. And then when I push on it, it's gonna form to the body panel again. And obviously there's a little bit of tension over here, but if I work it out slowly, I can get it out. Same over here. You can see it is building, right? But I know how to work out the tension so that it doesn't wrinkle and it goes out. So a key thing about when you're squeegeeing is not to go at it like this, but you want to kind of go at it like this. You kind of want to bite it, right? So you got to push hard and you got to kind of bite it. This helps push out the material, it pushes out the excess, and it helps it form to the actual body panel that you're trying to do, right? So you want to kind of move it, 45-degree angles if you're doing long strokes. I like to do it kind of like this as I'm working things out. But so as you can see, we've done a lot of stuff to this vinyl, and every time I push it down, every time I squeegee it, okay, the squeegee activates. When you push hard, it activates the adhesive, and it makes it so that it's hard to pull up, right? So every time I'm pulling up, and you can keep working at it, you know what I mean? Like, you can keep doing it. The material is going to be pliable as long as you did good prep work with the soap and water, with the alcohol, with all of that stuff. As long as you did good prep work, then you should be able to fix it, and the adhesive should still fix. So as you can see, we've been playing with the vinyl, we've been pulling it up, we've been putting it back down, and we're able to stick it, we're able to heal the mistakes. It takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of pulling it up if you mess it up, healing it, doing it again. There's a few things that you need to realize. Squeegee technique, okay, very important. Pushing hard, getting that adhesive to activate. It also helps gets out wrinkles. If you're going over them just real lightly, then it's gonna more than likely cause the excess material to crease instead of pushing it out to the end, which is the goal, right? You want to push it out to the end, because the goal of vinyl is to take this material, stick it to the panel, stick it to the car, whatever you're wrapping, and get all the air out and get it to form to the panel, right? It can be fairly difficult, but as you can see, the only time I use heat is to really fix it. Now, that's not always the case, right? You do need to use heat in certain times, but my goal is to try to use as little heat as possible, because people don't really understand. A big part of the vinyl is not using heat to get it to form. It's using a lot of pressure with the squeegee and pulling on it really tight. So pulling on it really, really tight without heat is better to me. First of all, you run less risk of damaging it. Okay, when you use heat, this stuff damages real quick, and I'll show you that. But it gives you a platform. When you pull on it and you make glass, right, then you can kind of be sure that when you're pulling on something, or when you're squeegeeing something, excuse me, when it's glass, you know that it's gonna morph to that panel because it has no excess, right? When there's glass, meaning essentially that it's just very smooth, right? So there's glass here, but I have wrinkles here, right? So I would want to fix any wrinkles here, and I would want to glass it out. It's harder with a smaller panel. It's actually kind of easier with a bigger panel, like if you're doing a hood or a roof or stuff like that. But like I said, this stuff is very pliable, and it doesn't always need heat to get it to form. Okay. You will save vinyl that way, in the sense that you're not going to mess up and you're going to have to do it again, that kind of stuff. So stretching material when you have excess sometimes is absolutely necessary depending on the curve, right? If I was going to do a door handle, I'm going to have to heat it to a certain extent. So when you heat something, when you heat the vinyl, you want to heat large pieces of it at a time. You don't want to pull, Okay, you don't want to pull at the same time. And I'm going to heat this pretty good, okay, until I can feel that it's pretty pliable. You're going to see the material relax. And then you can pull. So I would probably say that I stretched this piece 30%, which is probably not something that you would want to do. That's why I avoid heat, because what happens, let's set this a little bit. So you can see there is more tension now here because I heated it, I pulled it all the way down. So it doesn't do the recess as easily if there's no heat. It still will do it. The vinyl is very pliable. It's gonna do it. But what happens is you can see that this is now curving inwards, right? Because this material has now came down here. This is what happens when you're trying to go around body lines, you're trying to do all that stuff, is you can actually see that the material is shifting and you're stretching that material, so it's going somewhere, right? Excess material and recessed material does go somewhere. When you have excess material, you're not getting it away by stretching it or shrinking it or pushing it in. You're causing that material to go somewhere else. The goal is to get it off of the panel so that you can cut it, right? Because that material, you look at this panel, if I had a full-on square, right, I'm gonna have recessed material here. So over here, you would see that the straight edge of the vinyl would kind of push in. If you have the excess, then you're gonna see the wrinkles and the excess material get pushed outwards towards the edge. That's the goal, right? Get it to form this whole panel, pushing all the excess out, no air under it. And when you actually have stretch, the vinyl wants to go back to its memory, right? So if you have too much stretch, it wants to go back. So if it's sitting out in the sun and it gets a lot of heat, what happens is the material could potentially pull back, right? So like, let's say I pull to an edge. Let me heal this right here. And yes, it will shrink back. And you'll see it. I just let the material do what it wants, and it pulls back to where it was before. All right, so it pulls back to the same size. It wants to do that when it's exposed to heat. That's what happens. A lot of people don't realize that, because what they'll do is they're trying to get it to form to the edge that they want it to, right? So let's say we're on a hood, okay? Let's say we're on a hood. And we're trying to get it to fit the hood, okay? So obviously this would be the edge of the hood. I know the easiest way to do this would be to go to show you on the hood, but I'm not gonna do that. So, right, we're at the edge of the hood, okay? So we're at the edge. Now, you could cut if you're at this point, but let's say you're trying to get to the hood, you have a complex hood, right? So I'll pull it up over where the hood was at. You can see it's not there anymore. Now I'm gonna heat it. Now I'm pulling when I'm heating. It's not a good thing, because what happens is it rips, right? I wanted to show you guys how easy it is to damage stuff. So you don't want to pull while you heat. You just want the material to be pliable. So that piece is garbage. Now see what happens if you had an entire panel and you're heating and you're pulling and you're trying to get it around. If you damage it, you just damaged an entire panel. You are gonna have to get a whole new piece of, especially when you're dealing with an entire door, hood, that kind of stuff. That stuff adds up real quick. So like I said, a couple tips. Pushing hard with the squeegee, understanding the material and being able to read the material, right? Like I said, if it's tenting, you have a recess. You have a recess material that you need to push in. If it's bunching up, you have excess material. How do you get rid of that excess material? Are you going to pull it off and you're going to pull on it tight to try to get glass again? Are you going to heat it and kind of push it out? These are the things that really take a lot of practice. This is why professionals are professionals, is because they look at the panel and they know exactly what to do with it. They know exactly how to do it. So there's just a little bit of tips and tricks with the vinyl. You want to know how much your vinyl can stretch. You want to know how much your vinyl can actually heal back. That'll give you a good indication on quality and, really how much you can actually work with it, that kind of stuff. So these are things that you are going to want to know before you start to wrap, but like I said, nothing will actually replace actual experience in doing it. It takes a long time. Don't expect to watch a few YouTube videos and then go buy some vinyl and wrap your whole car. It will not work. It's way too hard to just assume that you're going to be, that you could do it. You're going to want to have a lot of practice material. You're going to want to, have some wiggle room, because it's very difficult. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope we can do more of these. I can go into further explanation on reading the material, doing entire panels, not just showing you guys just like a small little tips and tricks on small little pieces of vinyl. I am going to wrap this entire vehicle, so please subscribe. Stay tuned for that. I will wrap the entire vehicle. I'll put the GoPro on. We'll wrap the entire thing. But what I would like to do before I get to that point, winter is coming. I'm in my garage. Unless I get like a heater for the garage, I can't do it out here. The vinyl would get too brittle. It would break to do the entire thing. So we're going to get it done. But in the meantime, what would you guys like to see a beginner wrap? Okay, so if you guys are thinking about wrapping something, maybe you're thinking about wrapping your mirrors, maybe you're thinking about wrapping your door handles, maybe you're thinking about wrapping the roof or the hood or some interior pieces in your car. Those are all things, little things I can do very soon. So if you want to follow the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, put in the comments what you would like to see me wrap. Like I said, I am a beginner. I am no expert by any means. I work with experts, but at the same time, no matter how much they teach me, it is coming down to how much experience I actually get. So every day I bring all my tools home. I practice on, scrap vinyl and all that stuff. I practice a lot to make sure that I can get better at it. By no means, am I an expert. So door handles would be actually very tricky for me to do. So I would love to do that for you guys, to show you how a beginner kind of thinks about it and, gets that done. So if you would like to see anything like that, maybe even the wheels, we could try it. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. So definitely subscribe to the channel. Comment on this video. Let me know what you want to see me wrap. And you can actually see how a beginner does it and if a beginner is able to do it. Because I'm not going to lie to you, there are probably going to be something that somebody asked me to wrap, like the spoiler on my car or, my door handles or something, where I might not be able to get it done. It may take me a few tries. It may take me some wasted vinyl. I also have another vehicle that I'm going to be doing soon of some chrome delete. So if you guys want to see that, we can definitely get that done. But you got to make sure you subscribe, okay? Make sure you subscribe, like this video, share this video if you know somebody who's interested in, potentially doing some wrap. And if you think this video will help, I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments. But I would like to just make videos for you guys if you do have those questions. It would be better to just do, maybe like a live stream. You guys can ask questions, or if, we do like a Q&A, and I can answer some questions for that as well. So if you guys enjoyed, please get down there, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.